Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the Poor Man's Gwent seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode with only bronze cards. But that doesn't stop today's deck from having an unbelievable combo, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Scoia'tael Nature's Gift deck that focuses on playing a bunch of nature cards, setting up an absolutely ridiculous combo that no other deck can match in this event. So for round one, we're gonna play symbiosis engines like Hamadryad to give us more value when we play our nature cards, maybe put a Naiad Fledgling next to one of those Hamadryads for even more vitality boosts, maybe get some hand buff from Smuggler, or get more symbiosis from the Naiad Pondkeeper or the Dryad Enchantress. But our huge combo is to combine Elven Seer with Spring Equinox, which, because we have every bronze nature card in the game, this is worth 20 points per Spring Equinox. So if you play this on a Seer, you get 40 points from Spring Equinox, which is way more than any opponent could handle. That does mean we have a whole lot of nature cards, admittedly some of which will be a little bit difficult to use at times, so you need to be a little bit careful because if, for example, you don't have any units on the board and you have things like Tempering in your hand, then you won't be able to use Tempering. So you need to be a little bit protective of the units that you have and make sure that you still have some to use with your boosting nature cards. As long as you can do that, the symbiosis from Nature's Gift will spawn into tree ends, so you should have a target for future boosting specials. A potential workaround for this is to save a special like Biting Frost that you can use regardless of whether you or your opponent has any units on the board, giving you a reliable way to spawn in one of those tree ends. Because the last thing you want is to have a Spring Equinox or two in hand and not have anything to use it on. But as long as you can manage that risk, the upside of this deck is incredible. That being said, if you want to, you could replace a few nature cards with more units for better consistency, or remove some filler nature cards altogether because we're over the 25 card minimum just to buff Spring Equinox. Though, obviously that means a weaker Spring Equinox. Technically that is probably best for maximizing wins, but it makes the combo a little less fun to pull off. So ultimately, that's up to you. Now let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And they'll go first. Okay, so of course our deck is very light on units, very heavy on nature cards, so want to be protective of the units we do have. We can also get some with Bountiful Harvest as well. Let's dump Tempering Thaw we might keep to protect the Smuggler. Might dump Impenetrable Fog as well. Okay, it's Recruit. Well, that's not really a card we want to damage because they're potentially just going to use that order. So things like Impenetrable Fog, probably want to wait on that. We could go Bountiful Harvest, deliberately take the rightmost card to guarantee we get the hand buff on Smuggler so that this is a little bit safer because it's just 4 power against what is presumably a Nilfgaard Soldier's deck. This may not last that long, but if it can last for at least one turn, then we could use Thaw or maybe something else to boost it up a bit. So maybe we'll take our chances, since who knows if Bountiful Harvest would have given us a good option in that rightmost slot anyway. Okay, but it's Lock. We can give Veil. It's slightly too late for that. Okay, and it might be... well, it's Alba Pikeman, so it's more statuses. It's Bleed here. Or at least it will be. But there's a chance we could get Purification from Bountiful Harvest, but that is definitely not a given. We could answer this Alba Pikeman with Nature's Rebuke if we wanted to. I'd love to see if we could purify this. Maybe we do go for Bountiful Harvest here. We do not get the purification. Elven Seer does have a lot of potential, though, so maybe we'll go for that. We don't have the best possible targets for it, but we could still do some stuff with it. Well, it would have to be Thaw by the looks of things. A Mastercrafted Spear does stink. So that is a powerful card for sure. Gets rid of the engine that we wanted to have on the board for setup. And if that had stuck around, that Elven Seer, we could have used it to spread around a couple of Veils from Thaw. But since we weren't able to do that, that means that yes, the Bleed from Alba Pikeman is a legitimate threat, and therefore it may make sense to use Nature's Rebuke. Shut this down. We do have tree ants on the board now, so we would get a little bit of boosting in the process. So maybe we go for that. Okay, it's Ardfian Cavalry, which would threaten... Oh, well, Veil on the heavy cavalry, or this is, of course, a very powerful combo once that does get enough armor to go into the melee row. And it is dealing damage to us every turn. That is if we were to play a unit on a turn, although that is not necessarily something that we need to do. Although you could make the case that we want to keep this round short and just not even try to push much further, since we don't have the cards we wanted to have doing the thing we want them to do. The Hawker Smuggler and the Seer both getting shut down. We could use the Fledgling, which does have some potential, but maybe that's something we'd like to save. And the Enchantress, and that, I guess, would be the thing we would build around. We could do that. Sure. I guess we'll give ourselves at least a chance to keep on fighting in this round. Okay, it's another cavalry. I mean, it's not worth a lot of points directly. It's all really based on the damage potential here, which is not a huge threat for us. But if they want to blow through several of their lead ability charges, I think we just allow them to do that. And now might be a good time for us to pass, since it seems like that was going to be one of their fairly high priority setup moves. And now they've used both of their heavy cavalry, so we don't really need to worry about that going forward. But it does mean they'll win round one. Okay, so they did play one more card than us. They at least have one throwaway, though, so I imagine they're at least doing something in this round. The Impenetrable Fog, especially against Nilfgaard soldiers with their armor, I feel like is really not something we want to see. Clear Skies, if we can get a bunch of the tree ants on the board, could be worth a bit, but I still think Tempering... I mean, yes, it helps us keep some of our engines on the board, but I'm just not necessarily convinced this is the best option for us. And we'll get it anyway. Okay, Illusionist. Now, what are they going to create with it? Is a Hawker Smuggler. That's not a terrible idea for them, because that does still give them value even at 1 power. We could take it out with Circle of Life, which I'm tempted to do. I mean, I imagine they're going to throw out another Illusionist here. I guess they can still make another Hawker Smuggler. And then that one we would have to get rid of with Nature's Rebuke. Even if we do that, they'd still get some of the hand buff carrying over, which is unfortunate, but I think we kind of just have to settle for this. So we get the Death Blow. Let's boost the Hamadryad, because that is a solid engine for us, one that we would like to keep out of removal range. Okay, and they're just going to pass there. And now that we have this tree ant on the board, we can boost it with something like Tempering if we wanted to, since I don't really... well, we could go Circle of Life and get some carryover from this. Is that enough, though? Yeah, we win by 1. Do we need this control for round 3? It might be useful, but getting more carryover is nice. And we only need to win by 1 point, so this works. Okay, and I'm glad to see that we drew into Dryad's Caress, because this is the purification that would have been useful for us in round 1. The Impenetrable Fog, I think we still try to get rid of that. It's another Hawker Smuggler, and we did draw into a Bountiful Harvest if we could get a Bountiful Harvest boosting this Hawker Smuggler so that it gets out of removal range. That could be nice. Maybe we get rid of this Tempering... and we rely on the Thaw / Dryad's Caress once we play the Hawker Smuggler to make it hard for them to get rid of it. The game really wants us to play Tempering, doesn't it? Okay, so, and once again, it's that same idea of we could play Hawker first and immediately get the value on it. It's vulnerable. We could go Bountiful Harvest, try to boost Hawker Smuggler, but we would need to go with the rightmost option to guarantee that targeting you. And who knows if the rightmost option is going to be good for us, especially when there's nothing on our opponent's side for us to interact with. Chances of that are pretty low. Given how we have Dryad's Caress here, I think we do go this route here. So we're just hoping it's not something that is like the Spear that could outright remove. So the lock is fine. The lock is fine. We basically baited out the lock. And now we can Dryad's Caress and Purify you, and you've already used your other Armored Cavalry. They may have other forms of lock, but that's the most obvious source that they would have had, and that might be it. So let's go with this. That means we can keep doing our hand buff for a little bit longer. We'd like to get our Symbiosis engines on the board quickly, though. Okay, Illusionist is probably going to be for another one of the... yes, Hawker Smugglers. So, in terms of damage, I mean, I don't really want to Nature's Rebuke this 1 power Hawker Smuggler. We could look with Bountiful Harvest, see if we get something that can deal at least 1 damage. There's a decent chance of that, so I think we probably do go that route. anything with we have found nothing with damage. You know, it wasn't that much to ask for, to have one card that could deal damage. We do have several things that are hand buffed, but everything is hand buffed, so you don't really work. The Avernus Heals Commando, that's not going to work. Obviously, Elven Scribe can work if we have enough time to set this up. So I think we probably go that route. And I mean, I'm half tempted to put some Nature's Gift charges on you or the Hawker Smuggler. Now this has been boosted, that's not so much of an issue, but it's maybe something we'd like to save for Hamadryad. We'll throw one charge on you. Just in case they're going to try to use Assassination. No, it's Mastercrafted Spear, though, so they will still get removed. Okay, so they've used all their Mastercrafted Spears. They don't have any more of those. We, I think, would really like to get one of these two down. So you're getting boosted directly. You're to boost an adjacent card with Vitality, namely Hawker Smuggler in all likelihood, at least in the short term, although putting you next to the Hamadryad would also be a way to get Vitality on her. Let's do this. There is, of course, the potential threat of Red Haze. We would very much like for that to not happen. But they do seem to be very control-centric, so I wouldn't rule it out. A Morlock at this point, that's probably more than we can handle. Oh, and also we did have Thaw, so we could have potentially prevented that, although I didn't want to put Thaw on you when we're going to have the Fledgling right next door. So I think we put Thaw on the Fledgling since we're not going to want to put it on the Hamadryad. We'll give you the Vitality. I think that works. Now we should try to get Hamadryad down as quickly as possible. This is still boosting, but, you know, again, the same issue as before. Yes, we could use Nature's Rebuke on you, but that's pretty serious overkill. Although, I mean, if we let this sit for every single turn, it will add up to more than 5 points. So, in that way, you can actually make a pretty decent case that Nature's Rebuke is still worth it. Now that we have Naiad Fledgling on the board, yes, we're getting at least a little more value from playing this now and our other nature cards, although Hamadryad is another card we would still kind of like to sneak on. Before doing that, do we go that route? I mean, you're gonna... Oof. I mean, you're a good Nature's Rebuke target as well, and you're potentially worth more than 1 point per turn. You're just 1 point per turn, so yes, I think this is the Nature's Rebuke target. I think we go for it now. And now we would like to get Hamadryad on the board. A Slave Driver for, what, another Illusionist into another Hawker Smuggler from our graveyard, probably. So they've been doing a lot of hand buff at this point. This is the price we are now paying. But let's go Hamadryad now, since we, at this point, absolutely cannot answer these. Put you down, and again, yes, we could put you next to the Fledgling. I guess that's fine. We do still have leader ability charges, so we should have enough Vitality sources either way. Let's not go any taller than we have to go. We'll put you here. I do want to try to row stack a little bit because we have these clear skies, so we'd like to see more things show up in that row ideally. Okay, the crossbowman will deal some damage. They aren't going to remove... The fact that they even hit this Fledgling in the first place suggests that they do not have any intention of resetting it. So now let's go Tempering, which I think is going to have to be on one of these small cards in the melee row. We just want the random treant to spawn in this row. Let's do this. Unfortunate. Then go Nature's Gift, which at this point, it's going to be awkward on the Hamadryad. It is technically... Is 1 point too many? No, that's just the right amount, isn't it? There we go. So at this point, they're probably in the process of playing their highly boosted cards. I imagine there's at least one that has received most of these boosts. Get lots of crossbowmen. And those are engines, so it is nice in the way that they have not been able to play them until the very end. They've reduced the value of those cards in that way. But Clear Skies, as I was saying, it's a little unfortunate. We don't have more stuff in that row. Please spawn in that row. Ugh. But yeah, also boosted these guys in the melee row with our other boosting cards so that they would not be able to destroy them. Okay, so that's presumably their last and biggest boosted unit. It's another Clear Skies. And we will use you. So it's 22-point lead, which is big, but we know this card is going to be pretty big. Honestly, something resetting would probably still be more valuable. It hasn't been hand buffed that much. Not as much as I really expected it to be. It is a soldier, so they will get the value from the crossbowman, but it's not enough for them to catch us. We'll hold on for the win. Alright, so going up against monsters here, and we'll go first. Alright, so we have an Elven Seer, which is really good if we can combine that with a Spring Equinox, because this has such amazing boosting potential. And we can use Hawker Smuggler to get some hand buff, maybe make this Elven Seer harder for them to answer, and that way we can more reliably make that combo happen. I think I like Bountiful Harvest. This hand is actually pretty well rounded outside of, you know, maybe getting more of those really strong cards that we were just talking about. But we don't get any of those. We can, of course, make sure we get one via the Cursed Scroll. Let's start with the Hawker Smuggler. It is, of course, susceptible to control when it's just at 4 power, but it does help get our other engines out of removal range. I do kind of hate that. Didn't really expect Predatory Dive from Blood Scent. I was more so expecting them to just go with some form of a bleed vampire. We got 1 point on the Fledgling, and that was it. So that I'm not thrilled about. I mean, they might have another Predatory Dive, so we need to be a little bit careful about what we play right here. Not about to drop you. I think we go with the Fledgling. Let's use this to get one of the Spring Equinoxes. Let's jump the Clear Skies. And then my thought is that we might put Hamadryad next to the Naiad Fledgling if this doesn't get immediately answered, and that way we can get some value from getting the Vitality on Hamadryad. It's in Larva instead. And that is an engine and one that we could answer with Circle of Life. Immediately remove and get to choose who gets the hand buff, and we could put that on the Elven Seer, which would be nice since that is a card that we wanted to get hand buff from the Smuggler, but it never quite worked out. Although we do potentially have some hand buff with the Bountiful Harvest. So maybe we do play it a little bit slowly here. We're presumably not going to be able to outright remove the Larva in that case, which does kind of stink. So we're letting their engines live in exchange for us being able to set up our own engines. Okay, this is more what I expected to see, but having Veil could be really helpful. Granted, don't really want to put Veil on the Hamadryad, and we should be able to cancel out a lot of that bleed right there. In fact, we could use Dryad's Caress right now to undo some of that, so that might be the play. And you will get a whole lot of Vitality from doing that. Okay, the Alp, more bleed. We're just trying to hit the Hamadryad again, but I think our ability to add Vitality might be better than their ability to get bleed, because this is going to be 2 Vitality more or less every turn. And we could put Thaw on the Fledgling, just in case they tried to change their mind and go after her instead. Although this is valuable for us long term. Maybe we go Nature's Rebuke and answer you. I think that's a pretty decent option, because that was going to be set up for the Flutter. Okay, Undying Thirst. Well, and that was the case to be made for putting the Thaw on you. It is a huge boost for the Flutter, though. Now we can't really purify that bleed off of you anymore. Unless Bountiful Harvest, there's a chance we get a Purification Elf. There is one. Otherwise, as we knew was going to happen, Circle of Life can't remove anything at this stage. I mean, we could still hit you for damage and get some hand buff guaranteed on the Elven Seer. Likewise, guaranteed hand buff from Bountiful Harvest on the Elven Seer. So either way, I think that does work. We can heal, but you aren't damaged, you just have bleed. You are the only unit in a row, so you're actually pretty valuable. I think we do this. And I think we don't use the Fledgling order, just because we want to keep the Vitality going on Hamadryad. We might pass on our next turn. Mastercrafted Spear, presumably to get rid of you? Yeah, okay. Just wondering if they're going to do that, because I was going to say, otherwise this Vitality plus the extra boost on the Hamadryad was going to make it a little bit difficult for them to catch us if they didn't do something else. This stage, yeah, we're basically looking at, is it Circle of Life, hit you, get hand buff? That might not be enough to prevent them from passing us here. I think we might just pass now, and that way they'll win round 1, presumably, but they'll have to go a card down to do that. I think it might be the best option for us. Peace, feast, okay. It is enough. So they'll win round 1. Okay, and I think here it's important that we have a unit to play, because otherwise these nature cards don't have anything to target if they were to dry pass, although they might try to bleed us a bit. So we do have a couple of units. I think we dumped the Impenetrable Fog. Circle of Life, I mean, more potential for hand buff on the Seer, although we've already done some of that. So I was hoping we might find another Spring Equinox. Okay, so they do dry pass. In that case, it's obviously not going to be you. It's one of you two is the throwaway. You have Symbiosis. You are great for synergizing with a Hamadryad, but we don't have one in hand. So I think we probably just play you as the throwaway. It's a little more difficult to set you up. So that means we'll win round 2. Okay, and Sorceress could be valuable for us. Nature's Rebuke, I mean, if we could answer one of those letters before they get boosted up, that'd be fantastic, although I don't think that's possible because they do still have a leader ability charge remaining, so they can get out of removal range immediately. I think we dump Clear Skies. Pondkeeper potentially could actually give us a lot of removal if we were to give a huge Spring Equinox boost on one of our Wandering Treants, although that's probably overkill. So more likely this would be to get the Symbiosis Infusion. I think might even dump this. And another Spring Equinox? Okay, worth it. Confirmed. So what do we play first? It might have to be the Sorceress, unless you're willing to play this and miss out on the deploy ability. So this could get answered immediately. We, of course, saw that they used a Predatory Dive. That would kind of stink, but you are more disposable, certainly, than the Elven Seer. And, you know, otherwise, I guess maybe we go Enchantress, even if we miss the deploy ability. You're still a Symbiosis engine, and if you get answered by Predatory Dive, that's acceptable, whereas it would kind of hurt if it were Sorcerers who got destroyed like that. Okay, it's Naiad. This is more what I expected to see from them. So they were, of course, Bloodsent. We did see the Flutter stuff, but outside of that, not quite as much vampire things as I might have otherwise thought. It's not a bad target to hit with Nature's Rebuke, to be honest with you, because that is a powerful engine for them long term. Obviously, in some ways, we would like to set ourselves up with more of our Symbiosis before we start spamming all of our specials, so that way we're getting more value. But, you know, it's the case of set up our engines or answer theirs. We also don't have a Treant on the board right now, which might be something we could do as well. Alright, I'm gonna get a little bit greedy here, I think, and I'm gonna play the Sorceress. I did technically mean to put her in the range row, but I think we'll put maybe even Vitality on both of you. You, in case you get hit, might still be able to use your order ability, although if not, we can use Thaw to set you up. And, yeah, I guess it's okay if you get hit a little bit more. Now that's painful. Perfect amount of damage. If she survived on one, we could have boosted her up with Thaw, and then we'd be fine, but of course, it never quite works out that way, does it? Alright, so in that case, I think we do put the Veil on you, which means it'll be very hard. I mean, in that case, the Naiad is not doing much if we have the Veil. It does mean, well, we aren't going to be able to infuse you with Symbiosis anyway. So, yeah, let's do this. So, they're going to have to put lead on a 2-point Treant in that case, which is probably not something they're thrilled about doing. A Feast of Blood. Oh, well, there's Purification, so it is still possible. And to remove the Veil, we, granted, could re-add that Veil, although maybe instead we'd like to play the Pondkeeper and get some Symbiosis infusions happening. In that case, it would have to be on the Wandering Treant, which is, you know, maybe not an amazing card to infuse. Would have liked for it to have been the Sorceress in all likelihood, but that obviously is no longer possible. Otherwise, I mean, we could use you for damage, but that's technically a net 0-point play, and I'm not thinking that's the best way to answer you. I think it is still Nature's Rebuke, but maybe it is best to infuse first. Put the Vitality on you just so it's a little harder for you to get removed, although, to be honest, I think it is actually best to do this too. Because we have now made this an engine. Okay. Red Riders will hit you. So now we go Nature's Rebuke, I think, because we have all the Symbiosis we're going to get. That will boost you. You're going to get hit on the next turn by the Frost. You're not an engine, you are. so that's still okay. You'll get dropped down to 1 point, though, which is a little bit iffy, but we should be able to hit you with Thaw on our next turn in all likelihood. So let's do this. Shut off their bleed engine. Lacerate does kind of stink. Does mean we lose the engines there, but I think we're looking to go Thaw to protect you. And we're trying to delay the Elven Seer plus Spring Equinox stuff, so that if they do have more control, they're not going to be able to use it on Elven Seer. They're going to have to use it on low-value Treants. It's a Fiend. It is half-decent point slam. It's their last leader ability charge, which, I mean, especially now that they're playing Fiend as well, does suggest that they're transitioning from what was previously a control-oriented approach to maybe now starting to play more units. So hopefully that means this is the right time to play the Elven Seer, because we obviously would like to do that before we play Spring Equinox. Really want you to survive for one more turn. You've got to be kidding me. That is the one card they could have played that would answer it. One card. Single card they could have played that would have had enough damage to immediately answer. That's kind of frustrating. And by kind of frustrating, I mean unbelievably frustrating. We'll probably still win with 2 20-point finishers, but it would have been really nice to have been able to play the big combo that we were setting up. Now, Spores would theoretically be the best play for them, and at this point, I honestly would not rule out that both of these remaining cards are Spores, but instead, they pass here, which suggests they do not have a way to catch us. Obviously, we had another huge finisher with this Spring Equinox, but we've already won, and they'll forfeit. So there's a look at the Scoia'tael nature deck for the new Poor Man's Gwent seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. And take a look at our Poor Man's Gwent playlist to see previous decks that we've used in this event as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.